Absolutely right. Wednesday's Daily Mail would like to sell this one as a scare story, obviously, but I have to say I draw some satisfaction from this.
Well, what we're saying here is that 1 in 10 secondary school pupils in England now use e-cigarettes, vaping cigarettes.
But instead of smoking, right?
Instead of smoking.
Oh, they're not smoking
actually,
E's?
It should be said that...
No.
I was getting excited.
How about EEs?
No. And actually 1 in 33... I think it's 1 in 33 pupils only smoke tobacco.
Right.
They're vaguely interested. Well, there's two things about this story. They are talking about a health crisis. The thing about vaping, I mean, I haven't smoked for years and years and years, but the thing about vaping is, of course, it still has nicotine. That's the point. And you consume nicotine, instead of consuming it through smoke, you can consume it through these vapours. There are damaging, they argue, chemicals which are linked to lung inflammation, chronic coughs, shortness of breath and lung diseases.
But in
and
much
also,
smaller quantities.
Maybe,
much
I don't know the data, but they're also saying, you know, there's a danger that these kids have become hooked on nicotine. It does seem to me a lot better than smoking.
Well, I mean, obviously it's still quite new technology, but people I've spoken to who do know something about this say that it is very much better for you. And the idea that nicotine actually is... I'm not going to try and persuade people to take it up. If you don't smoke, there's no need to shift to it. But on its own, it's not nearly as addictive. It's actually, you know, it's a bit like caffeine. It's a bit of a boost. You know, it does get into a bit of a cycle, but it's nothing. I mean, all the bad stuff is in the smoke, essentially. You know.
The only thing that made me vaguely laugh about this was that they're accusing the manufacturers of preying on children with colourful packaging, fruity flavours, and trendy names.
Yeah,
but you know, to which children are absolutely, you know, willing victims. Of course, at every turn.
But it's interesting that this has been driven mostly by girls.
Right.
Supposedly with boys it's kind of plateaued a couple of years ago, but the increase is all through girls, and it's all coming from, like, trends on TikTok and blowing smoke rings.
Oh, really?
And this kind of stuff.
Oh, so there are fashionable things you can do with
exactly, and there's they're getting, like, millions of views and whatever. I, like you, when I read this, I was actually like, this is good because this one statistic, 1 in 33 pupils now smoke tobacco.
And that's not...
And that's a peak of when I was growing up in the 90s of 1 in 4.
Yeah.
That's an amazing development
and
over
also,
30 years.
When I grew up, I mean...
20 years.
Smoking was really cool.
Yeah.
You
and
know,
vaping isn't cool. This is the interesting thing, though. They're making it cool now, maybe. But
Steve McQueen, you know, Bogart and Bacall, you know how to whistle, don't you? You know, put your lips together and...
I can't imagine Bogart with a vape.
Especially if it had colourful packaging, fruity flavours and a trendy name.
Dave Chappelle, I think, is the only remotely cool person who does vape on stage, doesn't he? And it makes even him look pretty pathetic. So, that's it.